We're going to call the meeting for Akron City Council to order. At this time, we're going to ask our clerk to please read the roll.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
All members are present.
At this time, for those who voluntarily wish to do so, will you please stand as we are led in prayer by Councilman Mike Freeman. Immediately following our prayer, I'm going to ask if Councilman Lombardo will lead us in the pledge.
We'll pray together. God, before the heavens were formed, you were there. Before the earth took on the shape that we enjoy today, we believe, God, that your eternal love, your eternal spirit was preparing and making. And so we stand here tonight just servants of you and of that spirit of love and sacrifice that you have for us. God, you've said if your people that are called by your name would humble themselves and pray, that you would heal their land. And we do ask tonight, God, whatever might be in us, that you would search our hearts and know us, and that you would purge us so that we might be better servants for thy sake. Thank you, God, again for your love. Thank you for your care for us. And thank you that you said you would not leave us comfortless. We pray these things in thy name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the
of the United States
of
of
the
America,
United States of America,
to the republic
and to the republic
that stands
for
one
which it
nation, under
stands,
God,
one nation,
indivisible,
under God,
justice for all.
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The minutes of our previously held meeting have been provided. Are there any additions or corrections?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Abstain.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
The minutes pass 12-0 with one abstention.
Before you, you have the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Holland.
Abstain.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
The consent agenda passes 12-0 with one abstention.
We have no public hearings this evening, so we'll move right into our old business, planning and economic development. Councilman Fusco.
Time on the agenda.
Time will be granted. Public service, Councilwoman Mosley.
File, please.
This item will be filed. We'll now move into new legislation.
Item number 1, offered by Councilwoman Holland and Councilman Fusco. Resolution urging Mayor Horrigan to rename Highland Triangle Park to honor Councilman Rich Swirsky and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman,
Committee's report's favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
are there any objections on suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Yes, obviously, we all suffered nearly a year ago in the loss of a serving councilman, and it's our hopes that we can have this little plot of ground near his home with his name placed on it. I know we had some comments today from other council members, and with your permission, kind of like to open up the floor at this time if we could.
Absolutely. Councilwoman Holland?
Thank you, Madam President, members of council, Mrs. Swirsky, David, and Sarah. It is my great honor and my joy to stand in support of this resolution urging the mayor to dedicate the park that we've known as the Triangle Park at Edgerton with a name that will ring in our hearts and ring in our neighborhood for generations to come, Richard Swirsky Memorial Park. It is a wonderful and perfect and fitting tribute to a man who cared so deeply about nature, about all things green and of the earth. It was my great honor to know Richard Swirsky. It is my continuing honor to know his family. And I know that it is the great joy of the people of Ward 1 to have this opportunity to recognize and in a very real, tangible, earthbound way to remember all that he did. I look forward to this Saturday morning at 11 o'clock at Richard Swirsky Park, joining the family and so many friends and so many Ward residents and so many folks from beyond the Ward lines as we come together to remember a man who served so well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Fusco?
Yeah, thanks. It's been a tough year, but in terms of being one of the ones who've been here around here the longest, this is the first time I know of whenever a colleague has died while in office. The family very thoughtfully approached the city, Keep Akron Beautiful, Representative Holland, and with the community's input, recruited volunteers, developed a plan and a strategy that they proposed to the city. Working together, this park is truly going to be a fitting tribute to our friend and our colleague. Wearing this badge today, you know something? I probably wouldn't, but a friend of Rich's asked me to. And so that's kind of like the way Rich was, right? I mean, he was kind of like the guy who, like, you know, it's preserve the valley, okay? But that's the way Rich was, you know? It's like he would, you know, push you a little bit to go in his direction, but then again, you could laugh afterwards. And that's what he was kind of about. So he was, he's really, truly going to be missed, but this is a fitting tribute, so fitting. And just ask for council support tonight. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Are there any comments, additional comments at this time?
Madam Chair, I did have one thing I wanted to say. I have a younger daughter, and your husband for years, and my younger daughter, she did not know his name, but he was the GOAT councilman. And from our time. But one thing I did want to say about Rich, obviously, you know, being of Jewish persuasion, and myself, you know, coming from the New Testament side, and we were talking one day about, we pray, you know, too much New Testament. And so I said, well, I know a good prayer. It was prayed by a Jewish guy by the name of David. And so we settled on a psalm, and you would have thought I was a genius the way Rich commended me, but we do miss him, and we could probably name the park over in Kenmore after him too, because he loaned his son to us so much in doing development over there. So I hope this past year I hope you felt love from, I think you definitely have, from the community, from this body, and nothing fills that hole, but memory sure tries awfully hard to do that. So I just want to say that to you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Amobian?
Thank you, Madam President. I certainly would like to recognize the fact that Rich and I sat next to each other, and it was a jokester, and we had a lot of laughs. What I believe is that the people of Ward 1 recognized his service and believed that he was a true servant for the residents of Ward 1. And they showed that every year because no one ran against him. I mean, he was always unopposed for the most part in terms of running for re-election, and was a hard worker, and he knew his residents well. So I believe that this particular park is a befitting tribute to him and the work that he did for Ward 1. And I certainly want to let the family members know that I would have been there on Saturday, but my work is calling me to go out of town and I won't be present, but otherwise I would have been there. And I just want them to know that my thoughts and prayers will forever be with them. And the Rick that I learned to know as he sat next to me as a colleague. So thank you very much for that, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilwoman Amobian. Are there any additional comments at this time? Councilman Malik, do I see your hand?
This weekend, when Councilman Busco and I and Jody were standing there in the valley getting ready to pick up trash, Rich Swirsky's spirit was there with us. And with the folks who were cleaning up at Glendale Cemetery, his spirit was with us. And in so many places in the city, in so many gatherings, his spirit is there. And to the Swirsky family, my heart is with you. All of our hearts are with you. And we want to honor his memory for the city and for everything he did.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Freeman, anything more?
With that, we ask for its passage.
Okay. Thank you so much. So the rules have been suspended and the committee's report is favorable. Roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This resolution passes 13-0. Item number 2 is offered by Councilman Neal, Councilwoman Amobian, and Councilwoman Mosley. Resolution urging Mayor Horgan to rename the Lawton Street Community Center in honor of Judge James R. Williams and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman?
Hi, today I had requested from the committee, given the fact that we were talking about our lost brother, Mr. Swirsky, I had asked that we suspend the rules on Mr. Swirsky, and if it was okay with the committee to go ahead and refer this so Mr. Swirsky could have his evening, and next week we could kind of reserve the evening for Judge Williams. And so we've asked, committee's requested that we refer this item to next week.
Okay, thank you so much. Councilman Neal?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As I shared in the back, requested we go into committee as a whole, and this is in no disrespect to the Swirsky family, but as I shared, we've been working on this for 8 months. Started on this 8 months. This resolution was supposed to come in last week. We are blessed to have a community where we have people who give of their service, of their time to this city. Not to take away from the Swirsky family, not to take away from the Williams family. I look at it as a blessing to bring these both in at the same time. We're not doing anything for Judge Williams on Saturday. We will all be there to honor Rick Swirsky. But you know, like I said, thank you, Madam Clerk. We've started this 8 months ago. The resolution was supposed to come in last week and was asked to take time on it not last week, the week before last. It was supposed to come in to committee last week. So, not sure why, but the residents, just like the residents of Ward 1, the residents of Ward 4, we've had discussions about it. They signed petitions for it, and we want a plan for it. Judge Williams, like our colleague Rick Swirsky, has a dedicated resume of service to this community, and I know Rich, being a grassroots community organizer, did some things on the national level. Judge Williams did some things that trailblazing. I mean, we talk about housing. He's not the only one, but he, along with others, created Alpha Phi Alpha Homes. That is a national flagship housing piece. And where would we be as a city without Alpha Phi Alpha Homes? So I look at this as a chance to celebrate two great citizens of Akron. But like I said, if we had just brought this in, didn't know that this was going to fall on the same day, but we started this bad boy 8 months ago, and was hoping that it would have came in earlier so that we can get some other things moving that we have planned. So with that, request, Chairman, is that we go into committee as a whole.
Okay, so we do have a motion on the floor for committee as a whole. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor. Freeman. Fusco.
Mike? No. It's a no.
So right now, we have a motion on the floor. We have a motion on the floor to go into committee as a whole, just so that everyone is clear on the vote.
Would you like me to start?
Roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor. Freeman.
So you're wanting right now to go into committee as a whole?
That is what the motion is regarding.
No, nay.
Fusco.
No.
Holland.
No.
Kamer.
Nay.
Lombardo.
Nay.
McKittrick.
Nay.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Amobian. Councilwoman Amobian, you're muted.
Aye.
Thank you.
I'll mute it.
Somerville.
Nay.
Okay, that's 5 ayes and 8 nays to go into committee of the whole. Item number 3 is offered by Fusco. Ordinance amending the zoning map by changing the single-family residence use district U1H1A1 at 112 South Hawkins Avenue to a government use district UGH1A1 classification and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
Refer and advertise for public hearing.
this item will be referred.
Item number 4, offered by Fusco. Ordinance amending the zoning map by changing property on the north and south sides of East North Street, west of Dan Street, from a two-family residence use district, U1H1A2, and single-family residence use district, U1H1A1, to a government use district, UGH1A1, and an ordinary industry use district, U5H3A1, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
Refer and advertise for public hearing.
this item will be referred.
Item number 5, offered by Fusco. Ordinance authorizing a conditional use to construct an oversized garage at 349 North Revere Road and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
Refer and advertise for public hearing.
this item will be referred.
Item number 6, offered by Fusco. Ordinance authorizing a conditional use to expand Mount Peace Cemetery and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
Refer and advertise for public hearing.
Item number 7, offered by Mosley, ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to apply for a water pollution control loan, sign all documents for, and enter into WCLF agreements with the Ohio EPA and OWDA for a construction of the Memorial Conveyance CSO RAC 26 project and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley,
Consent agenda, please.
this item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 8, offered by Mosley, ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service to enter into a contract or contracts after publicly advertising for bids for the construction of the Memorial Conveyance CSO RAC 26 and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley,
Consent agenda.
this item will also be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 8A, offered by Mosley, resolution declaring it necessary to improve Rand Avenue between the termini of Cedar Street and Exchange Street, Russell Avenue between the termini of Superior Avenue and State Route 59, South Street between the termini of Manchester Road and Bowery Street, 22nd Street Southwest between the termini of Battles Avenue and Harpster Avenue, and 27th Street Southwest between the termini of Marmax Avenue and 180 lineal feet north of Marmax Avenue by the repair of concrete pavement and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley,
Consent agenda.
this item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 9, offered by Mayor Horrigan and council as a whole, resolution expressing support for the mission of Akron Waterways Renewed to invest in Akron's environmental future by building infrastructure for the next century that will protect public health and maintain water of the highest quality in the most cost-effective manner while providing local jobs for the citizens of Akron, expressing support for the proposed Third Amendment to the 2014 consent decree with the city of Akron, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman,
Committee's report's favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
are there any objections on suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
As we're coming down, I guess we could say coming down the stretch on our sewer program, this would be the third time that this council has requested that an amendment be made to the original consent decree of 2014, and with that, we ask for its passage.
Thank you. Councilman Fusco?
Yes, thanks. This is, we did receive good news today, new news about the Ohio EPA. They're joining us in reference to this Third Amendment to the consent decree from 14. And I like the way it's being phrased in terms of the overflows. As mentioned today, there's over 700 cities in the United States that have these orders from the EPA in order to separate stormwater and sewer water, over 700. As far as we understand, we are the only city in the United States out of the 700 that are required to have zero overflows. Zero overflows. So for us to comply would be approximately $40 million per overflow. Many cities have 2, 3, 4, 5 overflows that they're permitted during an abnormal year, if you will. And so that's how you put it in those simple terms. The technology has advanced since we've moved forward. We're over 90% of the way home in terms of completing this project. Is that my 3 minutes? And it's just, and it was mentioned earlier today, I believe Mr. Malik had mentioned, the hardest hit community. We've calculated 9.5% of their income, the lowest 20% in the city of Akron, equals about 9.5% of their income. Almost 10% of their income is going to be required to go to water and sewer. And so this is, they will work with us. They've worked with us in the past, and they need to work with us today. And so we're going to be engaging the community, encourage all my colleagues here and all those that are community leaders out there to carry this message that we've got to send to Washington, D.C. on this. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any additional comments at this time? Okay. Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. Roll call.
Baylor,
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This resolution passes 13-0. Item number 10 is offered by Councilman McKittrick, Councilman Malik, Councilwoman Holland, and Councilman Kamer. Ordinance amending and/or supplementing Title 13, Chapter 135, Offenses Against Persons, Section 135.06, Menacing of the Akron Codified Ordinances, in order to increase the penalty for incidents of menacing against public employees and utility workers and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Kamer,
Thank you, Madam President. The committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
are there any objections on suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to thank the main sponsor, Councilman McKittrick, and I'll yield to him for any additional comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to touch base briefly on what I touched on earlier in committee, and we have special protections for our safety forces, through the federal government, through our mail carriers and so on, because of issues that have occurred. I just wanted to extend this to the other workers that are out working by themselves and are at the whim of anybody that decides they want to rob them, or if they disagree because they're trying to shut off their utilities and so on. And we have had issues here in the state of Ohio. Euclid, for example, created legislation because they did have a utility worker that was murdered there, and I just would like to have some better protections for our workers in the city, public and private as well. I would hope for passage tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Amobian?
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to thank Mr. McKittrick as well for bringing this to council, because I know that we all believe that we want all of our employees to be safe in providing the services to the citizens of Akron. And I certainly would like for this to be mayor and council as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Are there any other comments at this time? I think Councilwoman Amobian is making a motion for mayor and council as a whole. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0, mayor and council as a whole.
Okay. That concludes our new legislation for this evening. We'll now go to the portion of our meeting that we refer to as our public comment period. Just going to ask if we can mute everyone that's online with us. Thank you. Just going to ask, when you hear your name, if you could just approach the podium. You will have 3 minutes to speak to this body. Speakers are reminded that this is an official meeting. Remarks should be kept germane to council business. Anyone who breaches decorum will be ruled out of order and may be removed from council chambers. So we're going to ask everyone who is going to be participating in our public comment period, if you'll please stand at this time so that you can be sworn in by a member of our law department.
Those wishing to speak, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth? If so, please respond by saying, I do. Thank you.
Thank you. And so we're going to start off first with Mr. Michael Williams.
Good evening, members of council and members of the public that are here this evening. First off, it's always good to be back here. A little weird on this side of the horseshoe, but I had some good conversations with the folks out here today, and I'm certainly appreciative of their participation in city government. One of the things I just want to kind of say to you guys, I think you missed an opportunity today to celebrate two warriors, my father and Rich Swirsky. You know, Rich, it's kind of funny with Rich. Rich baptized me as 4th Ward councilman when I came in brand spanking new, and he let me know who was in charge of that corner of the ward and Highland Square. That was the other issue that we're there. The Swirsky family here is a little perplexed. And and I kind of am as well, because I think you missed what Rick Swirsky and Jim Williams were about. And I understand some rationale in terms of having a separate evenings or whatever. Both of them are up in heaven right now. They're probably a little perplexed as well, based upon the work that both of them did in the community and for people. They would have been glad to have shared this evening together because the work that they did melds right together. So just think about that as you guys, and think about what your actions, how they impact other people. And frankly, they were a little embarrassed today. I told them, don't be embarrassed, because Rich is certainly worthy of all the praise and accolades that he received today. But I know Rich, and I know my old man, and they've been happy to share this evening together. So just keep that in mind. It's good to be back, good to see everyone, and have a blessed evening. And listen to these folks that come down here this evening. Some are very emotional. I've already told them to be cool. But they're concerned about their livelihoods and everything else, and it's very important that you give them your full attention. God bless you all, and thank you for your continued service to the city of Akron.
Thank you so much, Mr. Williams, for sharing. Mr. John Beatty.
Reverend John Beatty, B-E-A-T-Y, 2047 Wyndham Road, Akron, 44313, Ward 8. Madam President and members of the council, I come to you tonight with a heavy heart. One of the members of the council has lost family members again. And I ask your prayers for Ward 5 Councilwoman Tara Mosley. I also ask for your prayers for the police department. I hope and pray that the police department will not make the same mistake they have made several times before, and not add injustice to the grief of this family. The other thing I want to mention is redlining. We've heard about how the Martin Luther King Expressway divided the black community and took away homes and businesses from the black community. Didn't reimburse them nearly enough to buy another home when they lost their own. I personally witnessed this kind of treatment to a small little community that is now the headquarters for, I think it's one of the banks. Used to be a nice little tight-knit community, and it's gone now. Predominantly black, close to Akron General. It's gone. And then there's Howard Street, a thriving black community with bars and so forth. It's gone. And now there are folks here who are sharing the grief of discrimination, sharing the grief of being deprived of a liquor license because of something that happened outside of that community. I hope you'll listen very closely to them. I'm also aware of the lady who came and talked about the treatment she and other tenants were receiving at Mayflower Hotel. And I remember the representative of that downtown association coming here and speaking and saying, we will not force these people to move. But this lady shared what terrible things are happening to her and to other members of the Mayflower community. I hope it will not redline black bars in downtown Akron, and I hope it will not redline poor people's accommodations in downtown Akron.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Reverend Beatty, for sharing. I'm just going to ask if we can, in the audience, if we could just maintain order. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Can we please have Mr. Harrington Hargrove?
Good evening, Council. My name is Harrington Hargrove. I live at 1008 Laurel Avenue, Akron, Ward 3. And I'm here in reference to, well, I have a letter here that I received in 2015. It was from HUD in Washington, D.C., and I spoke in reference to the mistreatment of the black community in Ward 3, retaining reference to federal dollars, which this council, I'm not speaking just this body, but bodies before you, Ward 3 has been redlined. I'm a part of that neighborhood with the inner belt, and I spoke last week about the inner belt and what it's done to our community. And all I've been asking this council to do is allocate funding. You allocate funding all over the city for all different things, multi-million-dollar projects, but you won't allocate money for the black community in reference to, I want to make it clear, in small business development and housing. Small business development. In my community, over 30 years, no new business for a black person. 30 years. And this shouldn't be this way in an all-American city. Council, you need to allocate funding. What's so hard about committing dollars into the black communities for economic opportunity and mobility? I mean, why is that difficult? You do it for downtown, 20 years of development downtown, but in the black communities, we haven't received nowhere near justice or just due. And so what I would like for this council to declare an emergency. I hear you do it all the time. We are declared an emergency and we'll act on it. It is an emergency in the black community. It's definitely an emergency. You have a lot of people want to do things in our community to make it better. But this council don't hear our voice. As of yet, you haven't. Declared an emergency. The black community, emergency. Lift us up, emergency. Any justice in our community is on trial because we haven't had no justice. I hear we have lawyers on the council. I mean, so they should be able to figure out something to help us out in a line of justice. So I'm going to end right here, but justice. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hargrove, for sharing. Janine Littlejohn.
Janine Littlejohn, member of Mature Lounge. As a minority business owner located downtown Akron, I want the same opportunities in the entertainment district as everyone else. I don't deserve the runaround when I request the city of Akron to rebuild my sidewalk banisters for outside dining. I call the city and I get the runaround. On one of my busiest nights last year in the summertime, the city of Akron embarrassed me in my establishment by sending in 20 police officers just to view my liquor license to operate. Did they do this to this same unwarranted search to Brewbakers or the Hooker Lounge downtown in Akron? I don't think so. I think it's discrimination. So my question is, what sets my business apart from running, I'm running an established business right downtown in the heart of Akron? Is it the color of my skin, or is it the color of the skin of the presumed patrons visiting that are presumed to be a risk to the beautiful downtown area due to the warm weather? As I stated, we keep security, we keep cameras, we do everything to provide a safe environment, and nothing serious has happened inside our establishment. You stated that bad things occur when we're open, but we've been open all year, every day this year, and with the requested precautions, and there have been no incidents. So what are the intentions of the city of Akron when it comes to Black-owned businesses in your beautiful downtown area? I just please ask that you also not forget that I have 2 levels to my business. I also run a restaurant inside as well. So by shutting down my business, you also have cut jobs in the community with this discrimination, the actions. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. I'm sorry, if we can, we got to maintain order in the chambers, but thank you so much. Mr. Littlejohn, we'll make sure that we get those concerns and get some answers for you on those, okay? Mr. John Sharp.
John Wesley Sharp, attorney and counsel at law, 730 Collis Drive, Suite 1201, Akron, Ohio, 44311. I am chairman of the Coalition for a Safe Community. We are an on-the-ground, grassroots organization that fights racism, comforts, and assists the victims. We are a group of advocates, 20 strong. We have some here tonight. We have Lenita Jones, DeAndre Littlejohn and wife, Elaine Sharp, Emmanuel Bay, Nita Jones, Ron Smith, Andre Smith, Steve Muhammad, our vice chairman, and John Beatty, our chief advocate. Russ Neal. Always good to see Russ Neal. Oh my God. What a great man. You'd be surprised how much support he has out in the community. I was shocked. He's been the victim of a conspiracy. Now, Black's Law Dictionary describes conspiracy as a secret group with a secret plan to harm someone. And you're going through a lot of trouble to destroy his character and reputation. But evidently it's not exactly working. Did you know this? Did you know that the mayor had the law department threaten Russ Neal? They told him, if you speak about the budget in public, we'll sue you. There's another conspiracy going on here. And it's against a place called the Mature Lounge and Eatery. Akron doesn't want a black restaurant downtown, a black bar downtown. And the police, the mayor, perhaps the council, you've conspired to shut them down. Now, I just discussed this with Councilwoman Holland, and she said she could not discuss it. She had been advised not to discuss it with me. So I asked her who said that. She said she was advised not to discuss that with me. Now, Madam President, you knew about this problem about 4 weeks ago. And Akron doesn't want a black bar downtown. I know Michael Somerville is not going to go for this. He's a people's advocate. He's either working with us or he will be working with us. All right, pretend I got a broom. Look, sweep. I'm sweeping out racism.
I'm so sorry, Mr. Sharp, but your time is up, and I'll be more than happy to talk to you after the meeting, okay?
Sure.
Thank you so much. Demetrius Smith?
My name is Demetrius, Senior Advisor and Promoter at Crown. Before we get started, Crown, Mature, two different places. Mature Lounge is for grown folks, good food, you know, mature people. But none of you would know because none of you have never came. Moving on. Crown Nightclub is younger, it's energetic, you know, it's a nightclub. In the past 5 years, my brother was murdered by a stray bullet at a vigil of another man that was gunned down. My cousin was shot and killed by her boyfriend in a domestic violence dispute. Somebody was gunned down in my front yard. I was shot by a random act of violence on the highway nonetheless. So to say, or even give the thought that we aren't trying to protect the people who patronize the establishment is complete BS. And that another reason to shut us down, besides the fact that the city has let the guns and violence overtake our city and have no answers but to say the bars did it. The education and mentality of our citizens are the problem. Since we were laid off from doing our shows over the past 6 months, there's been 10 more shootings at different party locations, and a friend of mine fighting for his life as we speak. But we are fighting for our lives for what? This is not a Crown nightclub problem, this is a city problem. And since the recent shootings in Sacramento and Dallas, this is a worldwide problem. Without police presence and a police force that actually wants to prevent things from happening, no nightclub will ever succeed or be completely safe. The police are active sitting at your driveway with 20 people in the building when a nightclub who has hundreds of people in the building asks for the presence the same night does not get the same response or presence. Y'all better quit playing with me.
Okay. That concludes our public comment period for this evening. We're now going to move into committee assignments. Planning and Economic Development, Councilman Fusco.
1.
Health and Social Services, Councilwoman Amobian.
2:30.
Parks and Rec, Councilman Lombardo.
1:45.
Public Utilities and Green Committee, Councilman Freeman.
2:45.
Budget and Finance, Councilman Freeman.
3 p.m.
Housing and Neighborhood Assistance, Councilman Fusco.
Subject to call.
Public Safety, Councilman Kamer.
2:15.
Public Service, Councilwoman Mosley.
2 p.m.
Rules, Councilman Freeman.
2 p.m.
Is there anything else coming before council at this time? Councilman Neal.
Thank you, Madam President. First, this was a great day for the 1040 Nation. For those of you who may not be privileged enough to know, 1040 is Griff Nation, Booker High School. We were blessed by the school board and the Cleveland Browns. We'll be getting a all-turf field. Madam President was there. It's just a great day to see the young people and those who have worked and lobbied to make sure that happened, all be able to celebrate that occasion. So I want to say thank you to everyone on the school board, the city, all those who came before us to even preserve that school in the community, and of course my beloved Cleveland Browns. Also, You know, I'm looking forward to our retreat this weekend. We're going to be talking about the city's Race, Equity, and Social Justice Task Force report. And in that report, one of the things we're going to do is we're going to look at definitions. And I just want us to meditate on this definition and really bring it to fruition within our city. And the word I'm going to use is inclusion. Now, here's the definition from the Race Equity Toolkit that we're going to be looking at. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Here's the definition we're going to be looking at from the Race Equity Toolkit. Inclusion, to authentically bring traditionally excluded individuals and or groups into the process, activities, and decision policy making in a way that shares power. If we're not looking how to really share power with the citizens, those that may be the minority group within this council, regardless of someone's lifestyle, ethnicity, we're playing. The Brookings report told us that if we want this city to grow, if we want this city to thrive, we have to be inclusive. So I'm looking forward to our retreat so that our citizens here and those watching online can see if this council takes to heart the Race, Justice, and Social Equity Task Force report by being inclusive in every way in the work that we do down here. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Amobian.
Thank you very much. I just have two things to say, and I certainly thank Mr. Williams, the former councilman at large, for coming down this evening. And I hope he'll come back next Monday, because I believe next Monday we will be able to celebrate this outstanding person who, in the name of his father, who did such outstanding work for the city. The second point I'd like to raise is this afternoon, because this is the last Monday in the month of April, and the month of April is the National Minority Health Awareness Month. And we had two of our major providers of services to come down and talk to us about the state of the health of the Black persons in this county. And I can certainly tell you that it was not very, very good. Matter of fact, I feel like saying, you know, we have a problem, Houston, in Akron. Because on every data point they raised, we have a problem with Black health in this county. In terms of drug overdose, they talked about all of the chronic diseases you could think of, diabetes, heart condition, hypertension, you name it. The Black persons in this county are not doing well. I even asked if there was some bright spot that they could identify, and unfortunately, the representative from the Public Health Department said no, that she could not think of one. And in the last 2.5 years, and now we know that the last 2.5 years have been problematic for all citizens, but as I indicated today, when white people have a cold, we have pneumonia. And that is what you're finding in the Black community in the county of Summit. And we need to pay attention to what we're hearing, because it doesn't look good for our people. With all the resources we have available to us in Summit County, we have to do a much better job. What I did ask them to do, and I hope Ms. Tamika Rose, our health ambassador, will work on this for us, is to make sure that the information I shared with us today will be shared with all council members and the public. And I've asked them to come back in July to talk to us about some of the strategies that they plan to implement between now and then. And what they're talking about doing between now and July is to provide more education, more awareness to the Black community in many different ways, using all social media platforms they can think of. So I just want us to be aware that with all the money we're spending and the things that we're doing, it is not having a positive impact on the Black family in Summit County. And we need to be real concerned about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Mosley?
Thank you. Can you hear me on that side? It sounds muffled on my side.
We can hear you, though.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. First, I want to congratulate Rebecca, Sarah, and David on the work that they've done preparing this garden in honor of Rich. Well-deserved. I wish I could be there, but I'm, of course, dealing with some family stuff. I just want to apologize to them because something that could have been really great for this community became very uncomfortable, weird, and awkward, not just for the Swirsky family, for the Williams family, but for this body, and I think it was unnecessary. As you can tell by the nods from the Swirsky's family, they had an admiration for Judge Williams as well, and Rich did as well. So I don't want to think that this was calculated. I hope it wasn't. When we're talking about a man who was a civil rights leader, a man who was appointed by President Jimmy Carter to the United States Attorney's Office, a man who was the first African-American man to graduate from our law school here in the city of Akron, the only Black man to ever, let me rephrase that, the only African-American to ever be elected to the Common Pleas Court of Summit County. It's where we want to rename a building for a man who deserves much more than just that. We want to name a building for a man who deserves more than just a tree planted in his honor. I just hope this wasn't calculated. And again, I apologize to the Swirsky and the Williams family, and I do hope that we do the right thing next week.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman. Councilman Fusco?
Thanks. I would ask that we have a moment of silence we have another former council member, some of us will remember Jim Shealy passed away just recently, so I would ask that we have a moment of silence. Served as a Ward 5 council representative as well as an at-large representative for many years. Ask for a moment of silence.
When did that happen?
Councilwoman Mobley, we were just in the moment of having our moment of silence, but we'll give you the information. We're going to have a moment in silence just to reflect on the life and legacy of former Councilman James Shealy.
Oh, wow.
Thank you, Councilman Fusco.
Thank you. And I'm sure there's going to be information coming forward in reference to that. The other thing I wanted to mention as well was we have been working, the steering committee that was announced a couple weeks ago, reference affordable housing, and we are going to be holding a town hall, first of 3 town halls we'll be having within the city. The first will be a town hall that will be virtual on May 24th at 6 p.m. There's going to be a flyer that's going to be produced, and we're asking that everyone hand those out in terms of participation. We'll have 2 others that will be in person. The steering committee will be hosting this and soliciting comments. Again, on the 24th at 6 o'clock, And we're looking forward to having a healthy exchange with the community in reference to affordable housing within our city. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Councilman Fusco, for sharing that. Is there anything else coming before council at this time? If not, is there a motion for?
Madam President?
Yes, Councilwoman Mobian.
May I ask Mr. Fusco, Mr. Volman provided a tentative schedule of the rollout of rehab housing and talked about individuals that they're planning to hire. I'm hoping that they're going to stay on track with that schedule. Would that, what you're doing, would that interfere at all with what he rolled out?
I don't believe so whatsoever. Yeah, this is good. Our focus area is going to be the affordable housing. It's going to be the Erickson, Arlington, Wilbeth properties such as that. So that's going to be our sole focus, the steering committee.
Okay.
And later on, we're hoping to.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely, but we're going to engage council and ask for their support in terms of having what we're going to refer to as focus teams. And the council, as well as the community together, will form these focus teams and develop strategies moving forth, both short and long term. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilman Malik.
Thank you, Madam President. Councilwoman Mobian mentioned information from Mr. Bowman about housing rehab. I may have missed that in my email, but if it was just sent to Councilwoman Mobian, could you share it with the rest of council?
Okay. Councilman Malik, we'll make sure.
It wasn't rolled out to everybody that same evening that I talked about it. Was it sent out, Sarah?
It was sent out to everyone. We will send it out again, okay? No problem.
Okay. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you so much. If there's nothing else coming before council, do we have a motion for adjournment? We have a motion. If there are no objections, meeting adjourned.
This concludes the live broadcast of Akron City Council. Margot Somerville, President of Council, presiding.